talking about lipids. Now, we need to know what a lipid is because they can just bring a definition. That's how tricky they are, these people for biology. So, lipids. So, when you're talking about lipids, for example, the first quiz that I had myself, they brought what is the definition of a lipid. Like, we almost all of us got it wrong because we were mixing a certain word, just one word, with actually just one thing which changed everything. So a lipid is a group of naturally occurring esters. Okay, group of naturally occurring esters. Naturally occurring esters. And now I think we did organic chemistry in high school and we know what an ester is. Okay, so a group of naturally occurring esters. Now, what are these esters? Esters of fatty acids, and alcohols. So these are the lipids we are talking about. Now, we are saying these are going to be esters because for you to have an ester bond, an ester is a compound that is formed when the functional group of an alcohol, that is a OH, gets to react with the functional group of an acid. And we know the functional group of an acid is a carboxyl group, which is a COOH. Okay, which we write as carbon double bonded to oxygen, and then you have got OH. So if this group reacts with the OH group, what you are going to see is you are going to form water, right? And then you are going to have C double bonded with oxygen like that, and then you are going to have an oxygen here. This can be bonded to different things this side. This can also be bonded to different things this side. So this is an ester linkage. So an ester is a compound formed when an alcohol reacts with an acid. So that is why we are saying lipids are groups of naturally occurring esters of fatty acids. If you see fatty, it is an acid. That means it has got this group. And alcohols, meaning it has got the OH group. So that is what gives us an ester. Now, at times you might confuse, you say a group of natural occurring esters or fatty acids and glycerol. The reason as to why you can confuse that is because we are going to understand if you start talking about the types of lipids. Because we have got one which is formed by reacting fatty acids and glycerol, one type of full lipid. Okay, so you are going to think as if this is a general form of all lipids. Okay, from just from here, are we okay? Are we good at this point? Okay, so we are saying we have got an alcohol. Okay, we have got an alcohol. We also have an acid. For you to form an ester, you need to have the functional group of an alcohol, that is the OH, reacting with the functional group of an acid, which is the carbon double bonded to oxygen, and then OH. So this is called a carboxyl group. So what happens if this reacts is this OH is going to interact with this. Okay, one hydrogen here is going to go. You are going to have something like C double bonded to oxygen. You are just going to remain with an oxygen here, right? So this side you can have one compound attaching, and then to this side also you can have another compound attaching like that. So this linkage which you have here is the carbox, is the ester linkage when you have got an alcohol reacting with an acid. Is it okay? So this substance formed here is what we call an ester. Is that okay? Okay. So when you're talking about these lipids, examples, so lipids include, you are going to talk of fats. Okay, you are going to talk of waxes. You are going to talk of fat soluble vitamins. Fat soluble vitamins. And I don't know if you remember the fat soluble vitamins. This is vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. I don't know, you can remember it as ADEC. So those are the fatty soluble vitamins. They also include glycerides. You also include phospholipids. You look at each of these phospholipids. We also have steroids. Okay, steroids. So these are examples of lipids. Of course, I was supposed to also include oils. So we have got fats. If you've got fats, you should also have oils. So these are all lipids. Now, you need to know that lipids contain a lot of carbon and hydrogens, and from what we've been talking about, a bond between carbon and hydrogen is non-polar, and a non-polar molecule cannot interact with a polar molecule, and you know that water is polar. So because lipids contain a lot of non-polar bonds and water is polar, you expect them not to interact. Because of this, we say that lipids are hydrophobic. Okay, hydrophobic meaning that they fear water. Phobic comes from phobia, meaning to fear. So lipids are mostly hydrophobic. And you need to also, because hydrophobic, they fear water, this is what makes them to be insoluble. They don't dissolve in water. Okay, they don't dissolve in water. So lipids are mostly able to be extracted from cells. So you can extract lipids from cells. All right, you can get them from cells. Okay, so apart from that, of course, you can extract them from cells using organic solvents. An organic solvent is a solvent that can dissolve organic compounds. For example, you've said since lipids they cannot dissolve in what, they cannot dissolve in water, then they should be able to dissolve in some organic solvents. In other words, in those compounds which also have non-polar bonds. The only way a non-polar molecule can dissolve is when you dissolve it into a non-polar molecule. And those non-polar molecules, they include chloroform and benzene, okay, and ethers. You are going to understand in organic chemistry all these ethers, benzenes. Okay, so the many biological functions. Now, what are the many biological functions of lipids? We also need to understand that many biological functions of lipids. Well, the many biological functions to a living organism of lipids is: one, they are there for energy storage. Okay, they are there for energy storage. And actually lipids, when you break down a lipid, when you break the bonds in lipids, they are going to give you more energy than even the carbohydrates are able to give you. So lipids, they tend to give us more energy as compared to either proteins or carbohydrates. Please know that. And when you look at a lipid, lipids have got a lot of carbon to hydrogen bonds, a lot of them. Because of this, when you're comparing a carbohydrate, okay, you're comparing a carbohydrate and a lipid, the ratio of carbon to oxygen in lipids is much bigger as compared to the ratio of carbon to oxygen in carbohydrates. What I mean is that you have got a lot of carbons in comparison to oxygen in lipids than in what? Than in carbohydrates. For example, in carbohydrates, you know that the formula is CnH2n or N, meaning that the ratio of carbon to oxygen is 1 to 1. So this ratio in carbohydrates, you might find that you only have 2 oxygens, but you have got about 18 carbons. Then that the ratio, these are exam questions, the ratio of carbon to oxygen in lipids is greater than in carbohydrates. Even same, now if you're talking about carbons and hydrogens, for example, we're going to have a compound, let's say C16, and then H, let's say double the number of that. So approximately the ratio of carbon to hydrogen in lipids is approximately equal to the ratio of carbon to hydrogen in carbohydrates, because Here the ratio is 2 to 1. Even here the ratio is approximately 2 to 1. You are going to understand if I look at an example, right? But you need to know that the ratios in in lipids are very much higher than in carbohydrates because you have more atoms. Okay. So apart from them being there for energy storage, they are also there for cell signaling. Okay, cell signaling. In other words, for cells to get to recognize themselves, when you have got one cell here, another cell here, these, we have got a cell membrane. Cell membranes contain lipids, and because of that, these are able to interact with other cells, and they are going to transfer signals. Okay, they are there for signaling, even to know that, okay, you have got something that doesn't belong to this cell that is coming in the cell. These are able to identify that this doesn't belong to this cell. So cell signaling. Apart from that, they are also there for structural support. Okay, structural support. These are found in cell membranes. So that is why they are there for structural support. They are going to be able to support the structure. What we are going to see is that the cell membrane contains some of these lipids. What happens is when it is very hot, these lipids are going to harden. Okay, the lipids are going to harden to prevent the cell from melting, and when it is very cold, these lipids are going to soften to prevent the cell from being so strong. So they are there for structural support in the cell membranes. Okay, so apart from that, they are also there for heat and electrical insulation. Heat and electrical insulation. You can think of a leaf. When you have got a leaf, just the surface of a leaf, like there is that shine surface of a leaf. That shine surface of a leaf, like if you just look at any leaf, there's just the surface, it's so shiny. That is made up of lipids. And that is for insulation. Okay? Even just our bodies have got a lot of fat to insulate us from a lot of heat from the environment. That is why we've got a lot of fat, especially ladies. Okay, actually, the percentage of water in a normal male, like an average male, is about 60%. Okay, but for females, water is about 50%. The other 10%, that would be the difference between the male and the female. That is because of fats. Okay, that space is occupied by fats. Apart from that, fats are also there for buoyance. For buoyance. Okay, now, what is buoyance? Buoyance is just the tendency of an object to float on water. So, if you get something that is so like it, which has got a lot of fat, you throw it on water, it will not sink in water. It will just float on top. That is buoyance. So, it is buoyance that makes it is the fats which makes buoyance possible. Why? Because fats do not interact with water. In other words, it is not possible for you to find fat down water. It is impossible. Even if I get a cup, I first pour, I'm going to pour cooking oil, and then I pour water on top. This fat will migrate from the bottom unless it reaches the top. You will not see any fat down. That is why fats provide buoyance, the tendency of object to float on water. Okay. Again, apart from this, fats also provides us with metabolic water. We have got metabolic water. So if you consider like camels are able to spend even like days and days, 21 days without drinking water because they store their water within themselves. They can store it in form of fat so that when they need it, that now is going to be converted to water. Okay, that the fat is going to be converted now to water. All right. Apart from that, fat is also there for protection. Like think of it, if you have got this person who is very fat, try to punch them. It's more like the punch is just going to be absorbed by the what? By the fat. It is going to be absorbed by the fat. Alright? So fat is very important. Very, very important for a person. That is why you see, if a person gets to be very, very sick, they stop eating, they get to lose fat, they are just going to be bony, and anything that gets to happen, should you just hit them a bit, it will be very painful, because the 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 shock is direct going to the bones. Okay, now if someone is like fat, the shock is going to be absorbed by the fats. So this is basically what gets to happen. All right.